You know what's fascinating about fame? It's built on stories we choose to believe, and few modern stories have captured the world's attention quite like Meghan Markle's. A biracial woman from humble beginnings who rose from Hollywood obscurity to marry into one of the most traditional and powerful institutions on earth, the British royal family. It sounded like a modern-day fairy tale, a symbol of progress, a story of love defying centuries of tradition. That's the image millions embraced when Meghan Markle became the Duchess of Sussex. But now, that story is being challenged not by tabloids or online critics, but by Tom Bower, a man known for digging deeper than headlines and exposing what he calls the truths behind the illusions. And according to Bower, Meghan's story isn't just inspiring, it's engineered. Let's rewind. When Meghan stepped into the global spotlight, she presented herself as an outsider navigating a centuries-old institution. She spoke about the challenges of being biracial, the cultural shock of royal life, and how love triumphed over everything. Her emotional interview with Oprah Winfrey, where she described isolation, trauma, and claimed she didn't fully understand what she was marrying into, became one of the most watched and discussed broadcasts in recent memory. But Tom Bower argues that this narrative is carefully crafted, not spontaneous or innocent, but strategic. In his investigation, Bower spoke with people from Meghan's past, childhood friends, former colleagues, even her ex-husband Trevor Engelson. Their stories, he claims, paint a picture not of loyalty, but of leverage, where relationships weren't deep bonds, but stepping stones toward a bigger goal. In Bower's view, Meghan's rise wasn't a fairy tale climb against the odds, but a calculated ascent built on timing, influence, and image control. And when you wrap that strategy in a royal title, the result isn't just celebrity, it's global power. This brings us to the heart of Bower's most controversial claim. Meghan, he says, wasn't blindsided by royal life. She knew exactly who Prince Harry was, what he represented, and how marrying him would elevate her to a level of fame that few Hollywood actors ever reach. In other words, this wasn't just a love story, it was a chess move. And Prince Harry? Bower suggests he didn't just fall in love, like he walked into a trap. A man who once had the world's sympathy for the tragedies of his childhood now finds himself portrayed as someone who burned bridges with his family, his country, and even his legacy, all for a relationship that might have had more calculation behind it than romance. This isn't just about personal choices anymore. It's about consequences, because Harry didn't quietly step back from royal duties. He scorched the earth on his way out. From explosive interviews to Netflix documentaries and memoirs, the Sussexes reshaped the royal narrative, but now cracks are starting to show. Consider the setbacks. Spotify ended its multi-million-dollar deal with Meghan and Harry after a single season of their podcast. Reports suggest Netflix projects are stalled or under review. Even Meghan's new lifestyle brand, meant to signal a fresh chapter, is struggling to gain traction. The question that once fueled their success, are they victims of an outdated system, has shifted into a far more damaging one. Did they manipulate the world's sympathy? And perhaps most troubling for Meghan, the strategies that once worked so well, emotional interviews, curated photo shoots, sympathy-driven storytelling, aren't landing the same way anymore. The public mood has changed. Skepticism is growing. Bower isn't just writing gossip. He's documenting what he calls the biggest PR illusion of our time. And unlike tabloids, he doesn't want quotes or staged photo ops. He wants evidence, and according to insiders, he has it. Interviews, receipts, timelines, and witnesses that challenge Meghan's carefully curated narrative. Predictably, Meghan's reaction hasn't been calm. Reports of angry calls, legal consultations, and frantic behind-the-scenes meetings suggest a full-scale crisis response. But in the digital age, the harder you fight a narrative, the louder it often becomes. And Hollywood knows this. Brands are cautious. Studios hate risk. The same executives who once courted Meghan's star power are now quietly stepping back, wary of controversy. Deals dry up, calls go unanswered, and doors that once swung open are starting to close. Tom Bower hasn't just published a book, he's detonated a brand. Meanwhile, Harry is caught in the storm. Each new revelation chips away at what remains of his credibility. He is now the prince who turned on his family, and the world is asking whether it was worth it. Inside Buckingham Palace, there's no public celebration, but there is quiet vindication. Because if Meghan's story, the story that fueled so many of her claims about cruelty, racism, and isolation, begins to crumble under scrutiny, then so do those accusations. For a monarchy that has fought for decades to preserve its image, this may be the most ironic victory of all, achieved not through retaliation, but by simply waiting. Still, Meghan is unlikely to retreat quietly. Those close to her say a counterattack is coming, perhaps a new documentary, a tell-all memoir, or even legal action against Bower. But the risk is high. The more she pushes back, the more people from her past might speak out. And if that happens, the damage could grow far beyond reputation. And there's one unpredictable factor Bower himself hints at: Harry. If Harry ever begins to question the foundation of his marriage, if he wonders whether he was part of a grand illusion, Meghan's entire brand could collapse overnight. Because without Harry, she isn't the Duchess who defied the crown. She's just another celebrity fighting a scandal. The reality is already changing. Producers are distancing themselves. Sponsors are cautious. Even Montecito, once Meghan and Harry's sanctuary of reinvention, now feels like a glass cage. With neighbors whispering and staff leaks fueling headlines, Meghan built walls to protect her image. Now those walls seem to be closing in, so what happens next? A quiet retreat seems unlikely. Meghan is known for reinvention, and a teary, raw comeback interview could be on the horizon. America loves a redemption arc, but only when the fall feels authentic. And right now, to many, Meghan's downfall looks less like a tragedy and more like the unraveling of a carefully crafted plan. Tom Bower isn't done either. Sources claim he's holding more evidence, photos, documents, and testimonies yet to be revealed. And every time Meghan responds, she gives him more spotlight, more reach, and more credibility. It's a paradox of her own making. Every move forward opens another pitfall. And perhaps the final twist is this: the royal family, once painted as villains, are winning by doing nothing at all. Silent, steady, regal. While Meghan battles headlines, they simply wait. Because sometimes, empires don't fall from a single blow. They collapse under the weight of their own illusion. And if Tom Bower is right, Meghan Markle's empire might be doing just that. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, subscribe to Shockloom for more deep dives into the stories behind the headlines, where fame, power, and truth collide. Because this isn't the end of Meghan's story. It's just the beginning of what might come next.